Welcome to this fabulous new series of conversations with wonderful women who share themselves with us openly. We're here to inspire and support women to freely talk about the important parts of their lives. There is no being perfect or scripts in this series. While you are warmly invited to listen in and contribute with your comments, we are not providing professional services or advice from this podcast or the guests. The conversation is for private, non-commercial use, and our guests do not necessarily reflect any organisations they work for. Now, please enjoy being part of real conversations that take us way beyond the small talk. Hi, Andrea. Good morning. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you for joining me on this little YouTube series.
Hi, Frances. Thank you very much for having me. I am really happy to talk to you today.
Well, I'm always happy to talk to you, so it's another excuse, isn't it?
It is.
Oh, look, I've got so many things that I would love to ask you about, but I guess I'd just like to start with all the things that you do in the world are so amazing, and I'm going to use the term feminism, and I know you're outspoken with it too, but I just love you to share a bit about what's important to you, and I get it that it sort of starts with that vein. That's what we've talked about, so please let us know what you're up to.
So feminism for me it's more than a belief system. It's an intrinsic part of who I actually am and how I interact in the world and the people that I choose to interact with. So, I'm a feminist, I'm a mother, I'm a community member. Look, this will sound really corny, but I do truly believe that if everybody contributes, we can affect a positive change for the generations that are here now and also into the future. I actually do want to make the world a better place for not just my children, but for your children, for everybody else's children. So I just think that we have to actually step up.
Oh, that doesn't sound corny to me at all. It's very moving. Thank you. And I get that you step up. We first met working together at the Sexual Assault Support Services here in Northern Tasmania. And I stood up for a role that would, the organisation, as you know, needed that someone to fill in an acting CEO role during changes, which happens all the time. But you were there as this incredible volunteer working on the board of management and been there for so long, been through a lot of changes, and I know there was a lot of stress with that. I'd just love you to share about what you have accomplished in that role and what that means to you.
So, look, I have to say, coming onto the Laurel House board has been an incredible experience. I have been there for a very long time. I'm the longest tenured board member, and obviously I'm still there. But that's passion, right? And the people that join that board, they have this fire in their belly. We're all there because we believe in something, and we actually want to support victim survivors, and we want to make changes to legislation and policy, and we see that this is the best way to do it. I've met some of my best friends, as you well know, through that board. It's just, it was one of those things where initially I came in and there were some issues within that board and that organisation. So there was a huge amount of work that had to be done, and it has taken many steps and many structural changes and cultural changes to really get that change to be implemented and implemented well. But when I look at where the organisation is now and the reputation that it has within the community now compared to 5 years ago, I'm so proud. It was worth all those sleepless nights. It really was. It was worth Well, I've got a couple of big wrinkles on my forehead. This one I call Laurel and this one I call House. But it was worth it because the work that we're doing is so important and the staff that we have are so phenomenal and the things that they do. Yeah, this is hard work. It's really hard. So I'm really proud that we've been able to make things better, not just for the people we service, but for the staff that actually provide this critical support to people. You know, I think we've empowered them to be able to do their jobs more effectively and more meaningfully. Yeah.
Mm. Absolutely. And God, this is an opportunity. I can acknowledge you for all the work that you do and your passion that you you constantly display and you share out in the community, and you've got a job and a family and all the rest of life. I mean, how do you find balancing all that with everything that you do?
So this is something that I constantly try to check myself on, and I do acknowledge that I probably have too much on my plate at this point. I was proud of myself. Last night I had a board meeting for another board that I sit on, and they were calling for people to review policies over the next month. And I just had to put my hand up and say, I can't. I am beyond my capacity at this stage, and I just cannot contribute meaningfully at this point in this month. And that's quite unlike me, but I realised if I did try to do it, I'd be taking away from something else that was critical and I wouldn't be able to focus and put in my best work. So I think I'm just best to own it these days. And I say, yep, I'm sorry, I have too many balls in the air. Actually, there are a lot of balls on the ground. One might have rolled under the couch, actually. I think we just have to acknowledge and say, you know what? I work really hard, I try really hard, but I can't be everything to everybody all the time.
Yeah, and what do you do to take care of yourself?
Oh, my garden. I absolutely adore gardening. I love to grow things. I love to be outside in the air, and I love to feel the earth in my fingers. And I like to, I like to grow beautiful things that make me happy and make other people happy. People quite often walk down my street to come and see my garden, and they stop and they pause, and I'm often out there pottering because that's what I do. And I have the most lovely conversations with people, people who live up the street from me. They come down just to have a look, or my neighbours around the corner, their elderly parents came down from the mainland recently, finally being able to get into Tasmania. And one of the first things they did was they brought them to my place to have a look because they knew it would make them happy. And I love that, something that I do for myself to clear my headspace and, I guess nurture me a bit. It actually nurtures other people and they get excited about it. And I really like that.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I have seen the Facebook photos of your garden and I can attest it is stunning. I mean, we won't give the address out publicly here, but I can see why people do that. That is so beautiful. Sharing the joy. I love that. That's really
exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah. And you have a big job. I know that you work really hard. Yeah. And look, I was pondering that I suppose where you are was a male-dominated environment to start with, and how has that been for you over your career?
Oh, look, it has been really challenging, and it is still largely a very male-dominated industry. So in some ways, that has really frustrated and in some cases thwarted my ambitions here and there. There's a bit of an old boys network within the finance and insurance industry, and I've always had to fight against that. But I've never stepped away from it. I've overstepped at times, or people have felt that I've overstepped, or they've thought, yeah, we want a really strong woman within our organisation. That sounds great. And then I'll get there and they'll be like, oh no, I don't actually like this. She calls me out on things. She won't play my games. She will say to me, that's not funny. So that's definitely happened too. But now at this point, I'm in this wonderful place where I'm able to combine my passion for the community sector with my work really beautifully by, specialising in not-for-profit insurance portfolios, because I know this stuff. I know what boards, I know what plays on their minds. I know what's keeping them awake at night. I know how not-for-profits work. I understand that so deeply. So being able to then come in and say, look, I'm a specialist and I sit on boards and I'm like you and I understand you, and then I'm able to actually assist those organisations, that's actually fantastic. I really, really love that, and sometimes I find things that don't make me happy when I'm reviewing outside insurance policies. So being able to clearly articulate that and give real life scenarios, I think is really, really valuable. So while my job's big and very busy, the fact that I'm able to just sort of smush that with my passion for that sector, that's absolutely sensational. I really love it.
Yeah, I get it. And to have that speciality is, it's a great place to be in career. I get that, because you have a reputation as well as someone who knows what they're talking about, and really straight. Like, I really value your communication style. I gotta always know what I'm getting with you. And
you do. Yeah.
And you own that. I mean, it's so inspiring. I love being around women who have found that place, and it's not always easy to get there. Like you say, I love that you caught yourself when you said that you overstepped, because isn't that the perception?
It is, and frankly, I've had the shit kicked out of me a few times, metaphorically, over the years, by men who were senior, who felt that I was, acting up and being a difficult woman, and it has definitely been detrimental at times. But I wouldn't change a thing, because if someone's not going to stand up and say, actually, that's not funny, and actually that's really inappropriate for you to say, they'll just keep doing it.
They will. And you no doubt have heard the same conversations in sharing. We did a lot of work, obviously, together at the beginning of the year around the sexual assault support services and awareness for the issues that are in that space, and having a Tasmanian out there with the Australian of the Year. We got, the area of work had such a high profile. Just sharing about that work is the same kind of experience from my point of view. I mean, how are you finding that? You're right up in the thick of it.
Oh, it definitely is. And it's odd, because all of a sudden, this piece of work that we've been plugging away on for years, I suppose, in the shadows, because sexual assault wasn't glamorous. It wasn't something that you wanted to talk about in the wider community. It was quite taboo, right? So we've been calling us on this for years and years. And, Grace has kicked down some doors, and well done to her, and thank you to her, because it has really shone a spotlight on this. So amazing work. But all of a sudden, people are going, oh, you do that. And some people, they'll try to, let's debate this. I'll play devil's advocate, but I have just stopped trying to discuss those issues with people who are willfully ignorant. If they're unwilling to change their beliefs, I'm unwilling to invest my time and energy. If they just want an opportunity to spout off their ingrained misogyny. A couple of weeks ago, a man tried to draw me into an argument with him by very loudly booming in a somewhat public setting that, most rape victims are just people who have morning after regret. And he had this giant smirk on his face and this glint in his eye. And I knew exactly what his aim was here. So I just looked at him and I said, calm down. You're being hysterical. And then I walked away. He was absolutely gobsmacked that I wouldn't indulge him. He did not know what to do. He was so embarrassed. The shade of red that this man's face went was absolutely beautiful. You know, I made my point to the wider group without investing any emotional energy in him because, frankly, he wasn't worth it. And everyone who heard that interaction, they had a takeaway, and it was not a positive one of him.
Wow, good on you. That's amazing. I love that word. What's this new word?
Hysterical.
Hysterical. I'm going to write that down. That is going into my vocabulary now.
Look, we've had, you know, hysterical feminazi thrown at us for decades. Let's bring out hysterical. Come on.
I love it. I love it. Look, even that discussion about what feminism is, it's really interesting in terms of whether it's trendy or whether it's, you know, because it has become a word that people associate some type of militant thinking to. I mean, how do you define it or describe it when people put you in that category?
I embrace the label of feminist. I have heard people try to refer themselves as humanist. Oh, I'm not a feminist, I'm a humanist. Bullshit. If you believe that both genders should be equal in every way, pay gaps should not exist, misogyny should not exist, then you are actually a feminist. If you think that two grads coming out of school who are offered the same job should be paid the same wage regardless of their gender, you're a feminist. Feminism means equality. It doesn't mean disparity. And I think that's one of the things that really aggravates me. People say, oh, it's the feminist movement, it's exclusionary. No, it's not exclusionary. It's a movement that is advocating for equality within society. So yeah, I wear that tag with pride, and I always have. But as I said, you know, I do get feminazi thrown at me quite often. But you know, if thinking that men and women should be treated equally makes me, you know, on par with a Nazi, I don't think so. You know, that's just an attempt to weaponize and to undermine the feminist movement, and I'm not buying it.
Yep, that's totally with you there. It's constant and it's still going on. Like, to me, it's bewildering. And the fact that the word does get weaponized, you know, it's hard, but I think conversations do continue if people indulge in them. So I love that. Take the oxygen out of the room. Don't you know, go with it. And the comments like that from men, to me, I start to think, oh, have they had that experience? Like it's fear, you know, did someone think that happened to me? Or, you know, did I do that in my youth? And stopping and pausing and reflecting is great. But it's as you say, it's that switch of mindset to kind of reflect and think, well, okay, that wasn't okay to say that or do that back then, and I'm not going to do it anymore. You know, that's all we're asking is for people to start where they are. And
exactly.
Exactly. That's great.
You know, be open. If you learn something new, be willing to take it on. Don't push it away because it makes you uncomfortable.
I love that. Yeah. And you and I've also done some work together in leadership development and, you know, personal growth, professional growth. I know you as someone who takes themselves on and challenges where you are and what you believe, and, you know, obviously skills and things in terms of running boards and in your work. But what are some things in life that have really impacted, you know, your thinking or your self-belief?
So I had a situation, it was just after my daughter was born. I had a little baby, a newborn, and my marriage ended. And I found myself suddenly and unexpectedly a single mother who had to go back from maternity leave to work full time to keep a roof over our head and food on our table. And it was really daunting. And frankly, I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it. You know, people were saying to me, oh, you should just sell the house and move back in with your parents. And I said, no, I can do this. I will do this. And you know what? It was bloody hard. But I did it. And I'm really, really proud of that, because my daughter saw me doing that. You know, from a young age, she saw me being capable and taking care of business and doing what needed to be done. And that, you know, as much as it was a pretty crappy situation to be in, I came out the other side and I was stronger and I was better. And you know what? I didn't have any need for anybody to take care of me. I could do that all by myself. And that was deeply empowering. Yeah, and it certainly made me more, look, I was probably already very left-leaning, to be fair, but it certainly made me more socially conscious, because, you know, I was on that other side. I did know what it was to live, you know, quite sparsely, because, you know, I was working full-time, I was paying for full-time childcare, I wasn't getting a lot of support, I was trying to pay a mortgage. I can remember a friend of mine came to my house and I had my little Alice there, and she was a baby, so she was in a onesie. You know, the onesies with the little feet on the end? Yeah. Well, she'd just gone through a growth spurt. So her little feet couldn't fit in there anymore because her legs were too long. But I was on a budget that didn't allow for just running out and buying new clothes whenever. So she was in her onesie. I had folded the feet back so they weren't on her, and she had socks on. And my friend looked at me and she said, what's going on here? And so I explained, you know, this is a stopgap until I've got some money to go shopping. And she didn't say anything at the time. She just went, oh, yeah. But the next day she came to my house and she had been shopping. And she had taken herself off, I don't know, somewhere, and she'd brought the next size up. And she presented these to me and I started crying, which, you know, it was a beautiful, very touching and kind moment. So I was a bit teary. And I said to her, I didn't want you to do this. I didn't ask you to do this. You didn't need to do this. And she said, no, you're part of my community and I can help. So I will. You know, and that was just, look, I can't explain to you what that moment meant to me and what that moment still means to me. So if I can make something better for somebody by doing something small, I take the opportunity to do it every time, because it will matter to them. And I'd love it if other people would do the same.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
It was, yeah.
It's really moving. Yeah. And I know you as someone with a big community of women around you. I think others are attracted to that generosity that you have, but, you know, also the encouragement. And I remember, you know, how you were with me when I first joined the Laurel House board, and just empowered me to do what needed to be done and be with that community of women that work in that space. And it's friends, and again, you have this capacity to make fast friends with people, and that generosity is certainly something I would acknowledge you for in that way. But how important are your girlfriends and the groups of women that you bring together? I know that, you know, we do these amazing monthly lunches and so much fun.
They are critical to my well-being. Critical. You know, I find that Look, as I get older, I care less about saying exactly what it is that I'm thinking. I just don't care. I will say it. And I find that really empowering. And I also find that it really attracts in and brings in women with very similar beliefs and values who also don't particularly care about their P's and Q's and you know, minding social norms or not upsetting anybody. And that group of people, they are my people. They are my people. So if there's anything I can do to support them and encourage them, I'm going to do it. We had a function a few years ago. It was a women in leadership function, and there was a conversation at that seminar after it had finished around networking and how valuable it was. And people were expressing that some women find it really difficult to actually attend networking functions because they tend to be, you know, between that 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock time frame. And women with families find that really challenging because that's a pretty awful time in the life of a family. That's, you know, running about, trying to get everybody settled, trying to get dinner cooked, looking at what's happening at school the next day. Do I have to send library bags? Things like that. And so a couple of us just sort of looked at each other and said, we can fix this. So we started a lunchtime networking lunch for women. Ta-da! Just like that. You know, it doesn't have to be a challenge. If there's something we can fix simply, that's often the right answer. You just have to be willing to let your mind go there.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, it seems so obvious when you think of it like that. And gosh, it just takes me off to all the networking events that I juggled a million things to get to, and then spent the night in awkward conversation and thought, why have I given up my time for this? And that's not my experience of what you created. I just love that group of women, and it's not competitive. I think sometimes those traditional networking events are about being the most important person in the room or selling yourself in that really, you know, the elevator pitch kind of way, as opposed to that connection that's really authentic.
See, that's it. It's a connection lunch. You know, I'm not going in there trying to sell anything to anybody. I just want to meet new, amazing women. And I think that's a big part of why it works really well, is that we're constantly saying to people who come along to invite somebody. You know, if you know somebody who you think could benefit from some new connections, invite them. You know, the door is open to all. This is a very inclusive and welcoming group. I had somebody attend last lunch, and it was her first one, and she said to me, I really needed that. You know, I needed to reset. I need to get out there socially. Thank you. And I'm like, you're very welcome. Come again, bring a friend, you know, and if you want to get a coffee in between then, give me a call. You know, like, we should support each other. That's what it comes down to. We should support each other, and we should encourage friendships in professional networks. They're really worthwhile. And I love what I learned from that group as well, because it's so varied. There is no cookie cutter there. Everybody's so different. It's great.
Absolutely. And I love that friendship focus, because when I started my career in the finance world as well, when at the ripe old age of 20, it was, again, a male-dominated workplace. And the boys had Friday lunch. They used to go to the pub at the end of the street, and we were not invited. And it was this huge joke. But we didn't do it. We didn't at the time think that it was our place to, and they'd come back late and they'd have a couple of beers. And I just think back to that now and how timid I was.
So that's it. We come in, and we have had a certain degree of misogyny and patriarchy ingrained in us as we've grown up. Let's recognize that. Let's acknowledge that. And let's say to these women who are at the start of their career, you don't have to play that game. You don't have to indulge that. Come and have lunch with us. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to absorb a lot. And hopefully we're going to make you feel like you deserve equal footing. I love that.
Indeed. Now, I really wanted to ask you about, well, you've read my book that I wrote, which was pretty authentic, I guess, about my life and whatnot. And
very authentic, yeah.
In your world, how do you feel? Well, I'm interested in the impact of reading someone that you know share about things that you had no idea about. And I guess part of it is also how that made you think about what you share in the world and the impact that your stories and authenticity have on your friends and network.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed reading your book. I almost felt like you were sitting beside me on the couch and we were having a glass of wine and a discussion. It was really personal, and I commend you for writing it. I think the fact that you were willing to put yourself out there into the public arena is absolutely outstanding, and I applaud you for it. The biggest takeaway for me personally was that you were open about the sexual assaults that you had experienced through your life. And like, whilst a lot of my close friends and associates knew that I was a victim survivor, I don't think I'd ever really put it out there on a platform. And reading your book, it made me realize that I could actually do that too. I could own that more. One of the things that always, I suppose, stopped me was that I didn't want people to go, "Oh, I'm so sorry for you. I feel so sorry for you." Like, no, you shouldn't be sorry. You didn't do that. And I'm not sorry. I didn't do it. It's not my fault. That's on them. That's not my fault. So that sort of gave me a bit of a kick, I guess, to be a bit more open around that. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your acknowledgement. I got that, but more importantly, thank you for saying, what you just shared. Again, even just in a conversation like this, it's not easy to bring up things like that. It's not easy to say, "Yeah, me too," and we could talk about me too. But
oh yeah,
and
we
personally through that
time.
That's right. I actually never posted. I actually never joined that conversation because I just wasn't ready.
Yeah,
I still wasn't ready to say that. And people who haven't read my book, that's a spoiler alert, by the way, that you just because it doesn't say it up front, it doesn't say on the back that's what it's going to be about. It's not what I talk about, and it is part of my story. And I think that is also what I wanted.
The beautiful thing, it's part of your story, but it's not your entire story. And I think that's key, right? Like, yes, we can have experiences through our life that, can have a significant impact, but that doesn't define us. That's not who we are. That's part of our story. And there are so many other parts, and there are some really wonderful parts. And how we present that to the world is actually up to us. It's not up to anybody to dictate what we do with it. A mutual friend of ours, Elise, I was talking to her a few months ago about my lived experience, and one thing that I felt a bit iffy about was that I did initially report to the police, and it took me like 3 days to decide that this was not for me. This was not going to, if I followed that path, it was actually going to be detrimental to me. I was a teenager, and I said to her, that's something that I've always felt a little off about. And she said to me, and it was exactly what I needed to hear. 20 years on, someone said to me exactly what I needed to hear. She said to me, "Andrea, I think that choosing that path was the greatest act of self-love you could have given yourself at that time." And I went, oh, I wish someone had said that to me 20 years ago. So you know, little things, little tidbits, support from a wonderful friend and feminist that can just bring, you know, just that little extra bit of healing and validation decades after. So I think, you know, I think that's one wonderful thing about being more open about what you have lived through, is that you will find things that you didn't even know you needed. Yeah.
Oh, that is beautiful. And I can imagine Elise saying that. And she's going to do one of these discussions as well. It's beautiful.
Okay.
It's getting a feminist flavour based on the people that I'm talking to. So we'll see how that conversation goes. But, you know, I'm very passionate about creating a space for women to share and developing my own listening. And I think that is a beautiful part, like always wanting to jump in, but actually just giving the person the space to say what's there for them. It's such a precious gift.
Yep, it is. It's really precious. And this is, you know, just a wonderful byproduct of being surrounded by the right people, which happens when you are really authentic. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for presencing that as because it's totally true, and it's my experience of life, and it's something I want to share with anyone who will listen, that you don't have to stay with people who are taking from you or diminishing you, and it's not just men, it can be women who haven't ever questioned the patriarchy, or they've accepted that the misogyny is there and so they're going to live it that way, but don't get the impact that has on other women. And there are a lot of people out there like that, and I'm not out there to bash anyone over the head with this, but if you can show people a different way of living, which is what I experienced with you, so thank you.
Yeah, no, it's critical for our self-care. So I actually had a situation a few years ago where I had someone that I thought was a really good friend, and I treasured her, and she did something that really hurt me very deeply, and she couldn't acknowledge it or explain it. And I made the decision that was that. And we had some mutual friends, and one of them tried to encourage me to get in contact and to mend those bridges. And I just said, no, you know, she broke my heart. And when you break my heart, that's it. You know, it's not just romantic love that you feel deep in your soul. It's that sisterly love, you know, and when you do really truly adore somebody and they injure you and they can't acknowledge or understand that, I think it's very fair to say no and to walk away. It hurts, it sucks, but it's a great act of self-care for yourself as well.
Yeah, thank you. And we see it, and it's like a romantic breakup, and I think acknowledging the impact that it has is really part of that self-love, and it's also accepting yourself that we all have boundaries, and it's not always a partner that steps over them. Sometimes it's, you know, it really is friends that we hold dearly. So
yes,
I get that.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. So no, it's okay to say I'm out. You know.
Yeah, and things don't always get the resolution of the why.
No.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, does the why really matter? You know, is there any justification if somebody hurts you really deeply? Does it matter why they did that? Surely that hurt is what actually matters. How you feel matters. It's valid. And like you can't control what other people are thinking or what their emotional range is or what their beliefs are. That's not your call, and you can't have any influence on that really. So, you know, if their actions hurt you significantly, take the healthy step and walk away.
Yeah.
I still miss her. You know, I do. I miss her. But I'm done.
Thank you for sharing that. It's a courageous step, and I get that it impacts other friends as well.
Yeah.
And people want to fix things, and people want to have a resolution, that happiness and the discomfort in a group, but it happens.
It does. And I'm okay with that. Again, you know, I can't control others' actions. There have been some people have tried to facilitate a reconciliation. My answer is just no. And no is a complete sentence.
For sure. Absolutely. That's right. Oh, good for you. So I've kept you for a fabulous conversation. Thank you so much. What's next for Andrea? What are you up to? Big sigh. I love it.
Oh, I'm trying to do a lot at the moment. So I had a really great end of the year last year. I had applied for a scholarship to do the company director's course, and I'd actually forgotten, and I didn't actually think that I would get it, but I got it. So I'm doing that very shortly. I've already got my books, and I am frantically trying to read between board meetings and get all of these things done and do my case studies and things like that. So that's taking a huge chunk of my time. I'm still on the Laurel House board. I'm the deputy chair. That's not changing anytime soon. I am in my last year on the Families Tasmania board, so I'm reaching the end of my maximum allowed tenure. So I will have to tap out from that at the next AGM. And honestly, my thinking at the moment is that I will limit myself to one board moving forward, so that I can really, so I can have a bit more time in my garden, you know, so that I can have a bit more time taking my kids for waffles, so I can go for a few more walks. And I'm looking forward to that. It will be an adjustment, but I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, so great. And I love that. Self-care and boundaries for this year. Yeah. I wish you the best with that and stay strong.
So if you see me overstepping, I want you to say, Andrea, stop. Okay.
We've got it recorded now. I can play it back.
Hold me to account.
I know that the passion is there. I see it, and you're very, very deserving recipient of the scholarship. Good for you for applying.
Thank
and
you.
getting it. It's fun. I've done that one. It's great, but a bit of work. Yeah, I acknowledge that. Yeah. So, well, all the best with all of that, and thank you again for your time. And I look forward to our next lunch.
Me too.
Bye.
Bye, honey.
Big thank you to everyone who's joined us and our wonderful guests for being part of a bigger conversation for women. Please make sure that you subscribe to the channel so you can stay on top of all of the episodes as we release them each week. And of course, there's a back catalogue there for you to enjoy whenever you have a chance. Please check out the show notes for more details and contacts. Follow us on social media and see what our fabulous guests are up to. Thank you again. Take care.